Hello and welcome back to Promises Kept, our Bible study where we're looking at the promises of God over a 5-month period of time. We're looking at 150 of them, and today we're on number 118 as far as promises of God. And this one is going to be found in the book of Deuteronomy, a book in which we've seen before. This is a book where God has given Moses a second time to go over God's commandments, his laws, giving them to the Israelites who are about to go into the promised land. And this is the second generation of Israelites, because the first generation of Israelites, they were unfortunately condemned to die in the wilderness because they hadn't followed God's commands, and mainly because they grumbled and complained against God. So anyway, here we are in the book of Deuteronomy, and we have a wonderful promise verse which shows the nature of God within its language. And just keep in mind as I'm reading it that he's reading this, he's talking to the Israelites. Moses is saying this for God to the Israelites. And this is what he says. This is Deuteronomy. This is chapter 7 and verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. That's verse 9. And in there you see that it's giving the promise. Know, therefore, know this is God's character. He's a faithful God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. So you kind of see there's an end point to this 1,000 generations later. But again, if you're getting confused here because you know that God does not, as far as going to heaven and his love and all that, base any of it on the commandments, just know, again, this is going to the Israelites, and this is within the framework of giving the Mosaic covenant, which was a conditional covenant based on the Israelites keeping the commandments. To put it succinctly, God said, if you do these things, the 10 commandments and then all these other things, then you will be blessed in the promised land. And if you don't, then you won't be blessed in the promised land. And so you can see that what is being said here in this promise verse has a connection, a tie-in to the keeping of those commandments for the Israelites. And it's interesting that it says, keeping his commandments to 1,000, that this is a promise to 1,000 generations, knowing that God knew that they weren't going to do this, and that eventually down the line, and I guess it is probably about 1,000 generations, they get kicked out of the promised land, which is told to them was going to happen by God. He tells them, these are the blessings you're going to have for keeping the commandments, and here are the curses. And one of the curses is you're going to not be in the promised land anymore. There's going to be people, outside invaders, that come and take your people, Israel, into captivity. And that's exactly what happens. So here we have God just kind of fulfilling prophecy while talking about his character. And it's important to know that this is God speaking this through Moses. And there's something that I want to say. It says, know, therefore, that the Lord your God is God. So it's the Lord your God, capital L, that's the personal name of God, Yahweh. So know that Yahweh, your God, is God. So it's almost like, hey, there's two different people we're talking about here, which of course we know to be true, revealed in the New, it is revealed in the Old Testament, but really revealed in the New Testament, that Jesus is God, came to earth. But here it's talking about the personal name of God, Yahweh. Know that the Lord, Yahweh, is God, the God. So it's tying, personal God. The Lord, your God, is God. Character now, the faithful God, meaning he keeps his word. This is why we're in this, this promise study, to show you God has got lots of promises for his people and not his people, and he's faithful to go through with what he says. If he says it, he's going to do it. He's faithful. And he keeps covenant. He keeps his promise and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments. So he will keep his promise and covenant. And here's that covenant word, which is just a stronger word for promise. He's making a promise that is not, he's going to do his part. If you do in this situation, the Mosaic covenant, if they do their part, he's going to do his part. And he's going to love them. And he's going to do that with those who love him. So it's this idea of those who love him, those who believe in him, those who are following him, that's where you get into and to keep his commandments. So in our time, the time of the New Testament, we keep the commandments of God because we love him. It's the same thing. Now, we don't keep the commandments of God to get into heaven. We keep the commandments of God because we already know we're going to heaven and we love him for it. So Jesus died on the cross for us. We love him for the sacrifice that he made for us. God in the flesh, splayed out on a Roman cross, taking the wrath of God on his body instead of us taking the wrath of God. That makes us love Jesus. And because we love Jesus, we keep the commandments. It's we don't have to get into heaven, but we do it because of what he did for us. He first loved us, so we show our love by keeping the commandments. Now, that doesn't mean keeping the Levitical laws, and there's a lot of stuff in the Old Testament that were also civil laws, and as I was describing, some of the laws were made, I don't know if I described it here, but some of these commandments were made to keep the line of Israel going, to make it so that they were prosperous in the promised land and beyond, so that the line could bear Jesus out of it. So some of these laws were cleanliness laws and things like that that were meant to keep the line of Israel going. There were also laws that were meant to show the other nations around Israel that God was blessing Israel abundantly and that following their God was a good thing. If you follow the God of the Israelites, you'll be blessed. So some of these commandments, the conditional covenant of Moses, had that kind of reasoning behind it. There were reasons behind it. And so some of that is not carried over. How do we say this properly? A New Testament believer wouldn't want to follow Levitical laws. Now, there's a whole theology behind this, which includes the fact that Jesus was the one that fulfilled every single one of the laws. And since they're fulfilled by Jesus, the perfect human, then those laws are not necessarily carried over to us. Now, it's hard because you'll hear that in churches all the time. We're New Testament believers. We don't have to follow the law. Well, it's really not true. Because we love God, we follow the commandments, we follow the law. Our entrance into heaven isn't based on that. And the commandments are still applicable. The commandments are applicable to us because it shows us that we can't fulfill them. I mean, really, forget about the 600 and something other laws that had a lot to do with keeping the line of Israel pure and holy. Just think about the 10 Commandments. I mean, how long has it been since you lied? I mean, had a covetous thought. Oh, I wish I had that. It's impossible to keep the commandments. So the commandments still apply to us as New Testament believers. And the whole idea of it is we can't keep the commandments, so we need a Savior. Because as long as we sin, don't keep the commandments of God, are following ourselves instead of God, we can't go to heaven. And so there is no taking away of the laws, the commandments. They still apply. And the application is, you can't keep them, so you need Jesus to save you. And really, the same application was in the time of the Israelites and Moses and all this. God knew very well that there was no way that they would be able to keep these 603 plus the 10 Commandments laws. There was no way. And he even tells them, I think it's in Numbers, which is part of the first 5 books of the Bible, he even predicts, actually I think it is in Deuteronomy, excuse me, he predicts that they're going to be kicked out. He tells them, here are the blessings for doing the commandments, here are the curses for not doing them, and by the way, you're going to be kicked out. I mean, it's not, that's not the language, but he knows they're not going to do it, and it's all part of his plan. It's all to God's plan, that they would be taken into captivity and would be spread around all over the place. And some would come back to Israel, but some wouldn't. And that just sets up the whole stage. It's something called the diaspora, where the Israelites, the Jews, are dispersed all around. It sets up the stage for when Jesus comes. There's pockets of Jewish people all over the place. And that's why when Paul would go out to share the gospel, he'd go to the synagogues in the area of Greece or wherever he was traveling. That wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't be Jewish people all over the place if they hadn't been kicked out of the promised land and dispersed. So you can see God's plan in all this, and you can see, why he predicted it as part of his plan. So anyway, I forgot my point in all that. I guess the point is the commandments. Why did he even give them if he knew that nobody could keep them? Well, he gave them to just shine a light, a mirror to sin, because you've got to get rid of that sin. You might not like the word sin, so just say you've got to get rid of the things that you've done that are against God. The not following his commandments. The not loving him enough to follow his commandments. And the only way to get rid of it is to believe in Jesus. He is the one that lived a perfect life on this earth and took the sin that he never committed. He took it all for every human, past, present, future, all their sin on him, and the wrath of God was poured out on him so that we didn't have it on us. And in these terms, the wrath of God is our going to hell because we've sinned against God. That one little lie sends you to hell. It's not God sending you, it's just the natural progression. One lie, you've got it, you can't be in heaven because there's no sin, no evil, no wickedness in heaven. That's where you're going. So I'll just read to you the next verse after our promise verse in Deuteronomy, and it gets it right to the part of the matter. It gets the point across. So this is verse 10 of Deuteronomy 7. Actually, I'll read our promise verse and I'll go into verse 10. So our promise verse is verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Verse 10. And repays to their face those who hate him by destroying them. He will not be slack with the one who hates him. He will repay him to his face. Ooh, boy, that's the promise of eternal wrath of God in hell for those who hate him. And you can see the stark contrast. You might not think you hate God. You just don't believe in Jesus. But you don't hate God. It doesn't matter. In God's economy, that one lie is against him. It means you hate him. You're not for him. You're on Team Devil instead of Team Jesus. And with that, he will repay you face to face. He will not be slack with the one who hates him. He'll repay them to their face. That's the permanent and personal nature of hell. I don't know, maybe it's not taught enough in church, but you need to know that those who believe in Jesus, they're going to go straight to heaven, their soul, when they die, straight to heaven, their body in the ground. At a certain point, their body is going to resurrect and meet their soul in the air, and you will be in glorified bodily form forever with Jesus in heaven, face to face. For those who do not believe in Jesus, your soul will not go to heaven. Your soul will go to Hades, basically, when you die. And at a certain point, your body, too, will resurrect from the grave, and you will go to meet your soul in Hades, and you will face the white throne judgment of God, in which he will see that you never believed in Jesus and had your sin wiped away. And you will go in your bodily, yes, it's a glorified bodily form, but not in a good way. You will have your body, and you will be in hell in eternal torture forever. That's the face-to-face part. You will face God one day in your body. And if you don't believe in Jesus, it is not going to go well for you. I'm sorry to be frightening, but I believe that time is coming. Time is short on this earth. And it is important for me and other people who believe in Jesus to get this message to you. And if it takes scaring you with the truth, capital T truth, then I will do it. Hell is not where you want to be. And Jesus gives you the keys to heaven, and all you have to do is believe in what he did. He doesn't even say, like he did to the Israelites, you have to keep the commandments. It's not it at all. You can never be good enough to get into heaven. You need Jesus to wipe away those sins. And he's done it for you. And he did it 2,000 years ago, and it still applies today. So all you have to do is put your trust and faith in the faithful one, the one that is faithful, who loves you with steadfast love, who will keep his covenant promise, the new covenant promise to usher your soul and your body straight into heaven, and you will be with him there eternally. So it's a no-brainer, people. If you're a science-minded person like I am, research it. Just research Jesus, his life, his death, not only from the Bible, from outside the Bible sources. Research the truth of Jesus and what he did on that cross. And just allow your thinking mind to accept what your heart knows. You need God. You need him. Everybody needs him. It's the empty hole that's been in your heart for all these so many years. It's the thing that you've been searching for. The thing that you've said, if I only just knew what to do with my life, then I'd be satisfied. That's not a thing. That's God. It's God that satisfies the soul. It's God who you've been looking for. And it's Jesus who's extending his hand to you and saying, just come to me. Come to me. His burden is light. He'll take the burden for you. You'll go burden-free. Your sin will be wiped away because of Jesus. So now's the day. Now's the time. And I hope you take the offer of Jesus, the free gift of eternal life in heaven, because you believe in Jesus as Lord and Savior. And Lord means you follow the commandments. Not to get into heaven, but because you love him. Okay? I'll talk to you next time. Bye.